At this point, it's blindingly obvious that the government has been taken over by a group of elite criminals who are not going to quit until they have stolen every dollar they possibly can. And by the time they're done, there won't be anything left but an empty husk. What this really means is that when there is trouble in our country, in the economy or whatever, help is not on the way. And this means that we are going to have to learn how to help ourselves and help each other. And one of the ways that we can do this is by becoming somewhat self-sufficient in food supply. This means learning how to grow some of our own food. And in this little video, I'm going to talk about some tiny steps that I'm personally taking in order to do this. So last year, I made a first attempt to do this, and I was using this little peat box thing, which is probably a good idea. But basically what happened is that I neglected it. I put some potting soil in some of these openings here and put some seeds in and watered it and then went away for days at a time. And of course, things did not flourish. And so this has just sat under our back porch since then. But maybe I'll bring it out again and try it. So this is what I'm doing this year, which involves starting seeds in 4-inch pots. The first ones were started on my desk, so I could see them every day, and the point was that I realized that I had to make this a habit. I had to have a daily habit of tending to my garden and seeing how it was doing. And so this is the first pot I started, and you can see that we are very close to having some edible sized leaves on these lettuce plants. So what I'm doing here is a phased approach. The idea is to plant something every week so that at some point I'll be able to harvest continuously. The lettuce I showed you is probably about a month old, and these spinach plants are maybe 2 weeks old. Here's the most recent pot, which is about a week old. There's a bunch of lettuce seeds in here, and you can see that some of them are starting to perk out. The other thing that I want to point out while we're standing here is that these pots are sitting on top of 5-gallon buckets of water. This is another part of my emergency preparedness in the form of what I call earthquake water. I have 4 of these 5-gallon buckets, and I refresh the water every couple of months. I do find that the water does grow a little bit of green algae, but other than that it seems fine. And I'm prepared to handle the purity problem by means of a little hand-pumped water filter that campers carry. Here's another current experiment. This is snap peas in a container with a trellis made of netting on bamboo sticks. These are about 2 weeks old, and 3 out of the 4 seeds came up. Maybe they're 3 weeks old. But this will give me some snap peas, which are quite tasty a few months down the line or less. And here we have another pot with some bush bean plants. You can see that some of these have been chewed up quite a bit by snails or slugs. I've begun to use the Sluggo product. We've used this in the past, and I wasn't sure how safe it was, but when I read the container, it said it's iron phosphatase, which doesn't sound like it can be very toxic compared to some of the other herbicides that people use. Back in the corner of my garden on the fence, I have this hanging pot which isn't doing much, and I have plans for this as well, which is to replace the soil and then put in a combination of snap peas that will hang down and lettuce that will grow out of the top and give me 2 crops from 1 pot. I have several more of these pots in the yard that also aren't doing very much, and so they can be recycled in the same way. After I went to quite a bit of work building the trellis for the snap peas that I was growing, I realized that since they want to vine anyway, it would make sense to just put some of those seeds into these pots that are hanging on the sidewalls of the yard. I have several of these, and there are snap peas in those, and they've been in about a week, so maybe we should soon start to see those popping out. And this will be another nice source of fall and winter produce for us. So this is a view down the alley way between our house and the neighbor's house. This must be 25 or 30 feet long, so that if you look at this and you look at that tray in the foreground, you can see that there's quite a bit of room here to do things. I have a long ways before I've exhausted my space, and many urban dwellers may find themselves in a similar position where once you start to go, you'll get creative in terms of what you think you can do in the space that you have. These are typical plastic trays that you can get in a lot of places, and these two trays up until recently have held weeds, but soon they're going to get little bundles of lettuce seeds in here, and then I'll have a pretty good sized thing going. This is the west facing wall of a typical San Francisco Mission District house. Here we have a place where we already have a lot of non-food plants, and this could be a good place to put some kind of a cold frame in the winter in the case that I need it. Of course, we're in San Francisco here, where the weather never gets really cold and never gets really hot, so the chances are we can produce quite a bit all year round.